Okay, as promised, it's time for my review of the latest episode of Doctor Who titled The Bells of St. John. I have to be perfectly honest, I've only seen it once, and I don't remember a lot of the details about the episode. That's kind of why I stopped doing the video reviews a few years ago and started writing in my blog. It gave me a chance to watch the episodes several times if I needed to, so that I could make a better assessment at how close the episode was to the original series. But enough about that. I'm going to go over a few things that I made mental notes of while I was watching it that just kind of made me shake my head. Alright, first of all, why the fuck was it called The Bells of St. John? I knew very little about this episode from following production, other than it would introduce a new villain called the Spoonheads, but I assumed that the title would refer to something relative to the plot. But no, The Bells of St. John is what you would have titled the episode if the entire story had been set in the monastery in the opening sequence. And speaking of the opening sequence, why even bother with suspense if you're going to explain the whole damned episode to us in the first scene? That whole bit where the guy was talking about there's something in the Wi-Fi, blah blah blah, and he ends up being in there himself. Why was that one random guy aware of his captivity enough that he could explain to the audience what's going on, and yet anyone else in the episode that suffered the same fate could do nothing more than say, I don't know where I am. I don't know where I am. I don't know where I am. Another thing that made no sense to me, at the close of The Snowman, the Doctor made it clear that he was setting out to find Clara. So why would he go about doing that by sitting on his ass in a monastery painting pictures of her? So much of that monastery sequence was left unexplained. For example, one monk says to another, the bells of St. John are ringing, which is obviously where the title of the episode comes from. So they go tell the Doctor, who has managed to establish himself as a monk, and it turns out to be the TARDIS phone ringing. Not the phone inside the TARDIS, mind you, the one behind the door panel. The Doctor then seems quite surprised that this is happening, which is normal because the Ninth Doctor said that the phone on the outside of the TARDIS isn't wired to anything, so it can't receive calls. So, if the Doctor wasn't expecting the phone to ring, why would he make it known to the monks that the ringer on the phone is called the Bells of St. John? And in case no one figured it out, St. John refers to the ambulance badge that's on the panel adjacent to the phone panel on the TARDIS doors. So not only does the title of the episode not refer to any major plot elements, but it's completely inaccurate. The bells on the phone are not behind the St. John panel, they're behind the police public call box panel. So, shouldn't the episode have been called The Bells of Police Box? Okay, another thing that I didn't understand about the monks. What possible aid could they be to the Doctor in his search for Clara? When Clara phones the Wi-Fi service, she gets transferred to the TARDIS phone, suggesting that she's somehow directly linked to the Doctor's location in time and space, kind of like the cracks were in Series 5. So, it didn't matter where he was. The Doctor could have been out anywhere seeing the universe, he still would have received the call. He didn't have to be sitting in a monastery waiting on it to ring. And not to over-criticize, but you probably could have left that whole monk sequence out and the story still would have made sense. The opening sequence was just to establish where the Doctor was before he was in London. Who fucking cares? The story doesn't start until he gets to London anyway. And now the title of the episode is just fucking stupid because it only referred to the first 5 minutes. Alright, okay. Another thing that I couldn't stand was the excessive use of color filters during all of the scenes that had Miss Kislet. That made no fucking sense to me. I didn't understand what kind of atmosphere they were trying to convey with all of those cyan filters. Okay, the Spoonheads. Personally, I think the name of them sounds kind of silly. And I'm glad that they only mentioned the name, I think, once in the episode. However, the concept itself leaves a lot to be desired. The Spoonheads are the same thing that were in The Beast Below. They're just the Smilers again. What is it with Moffat and robots that have heads that slowly swivel 360 degrees? The statues in Silence in the Library did that, and the Smilers in The Beast Below. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a neat thing to do, but not every robot should do that. Besides, there's no practical explanation for why the Spoonheads are designed with a camouflage system and then their spoons are in the backsides of their heads. How unrealistic can you get? I'm sorry, but no one is going to just sit there and watch while a human being has a head that swivels 360 degrees and reveals this big blue screen on the backside. Why did Moffat even bother with the Wi-Fi plot anyway? 80% of this episode was the doctor chasing Clara again, just like in The Snowmen. And honestly, this whole Clara business makes me fucking hate this season. And here's why. It's another River song. Honestly, you have to be able to see that. Instead of touching on who she is in occasional episodes over the span of 3 seasons, he's just compressing it all into one. And Clara dying again, and she's flirting with the doctor, and she refuses his offer to travel with him and tells him to come back the next day. Come on, this is so fucking stupid. We spent the last 2 seasons finding out who Amy, Rory, and River were. I honestly don't give a fuck who Clara is. She can rot in the Dalek Asylum for all I care. Let's go see the universe. Let's go explore different time periods on different planets. I mean, honestly, a show that is intended to be about a mysterious alien that travels in time and space is entirely about the supporting character now, the companion. No one can deny that this entire season is about Clara. And I hate her for that. I cannot stand when the entire fucking show has to revolve around one particular character. I don't even want it to revolve around the Doctor. I don't want to know who he is. I don't care. Knowing that he's a Time Lord from Gallifrey that stole the TARDIS is enough for me. The show is not supposed to be about the characters. It's supposed to be about the issue at hand. What if Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade had spent 90% of the film discussing Indy and his father's past instead of looking for the Holy Grail? You wouldn't do that because that's not the issue at hand. What's important is that we find the Holy Grail before the Nazis. In this case, it's the Wi-Fi. Earth is being threatened, Doctor. There's no time to fawn over some mysterious woman. That is a serious break of character. This whole business with Clara, that is the Doctor's personal agenda. When did the Doctor start balancing his personal agenda with the issue at hand? John Pertwee's Doctor wouldn't have done that. He would have set aside his personal agenda in the meantime until the issue at hand was resolved. The whole motorcycle going up the side of the building. Would it kill you just once to have the Doctor confront a villain without using some magical superhero superpower? That's all I can think of right now. I will be watching it several more times before making a review on my blog, so be sure to read my entries in my blog because my reviews in my blog are a lot more accurate than my videos. Normally I don't like to rate episodes from a scale of 1 to 10 until I've seen it several times, but if I just had to rate this episode after only seeing it once, I would say 5 out of 10. This is the 4th episode in a row that was written by Stephen Moffat that was just gosh awful. So I will see you next week with the Rings of Akaton.